Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're exploring the deeply emotional, really cinematic journey of speaking the truth. Think about it. If you were going to create a motivational documentary about fighting for what's right, even when the stakes are literally life or death, how would you actually structure it? What would the underlying psychology of your hero look like? Well, let's build that story together.
We are launching straight in with this absolutely brilliant piece of advice. Picture this. It was given to a young boy in Brooklyn by his father, an Italian immigrant cobbler. A police officer had just refused to pay for a shoe shine, and the father turned to his son and said, "Never run when you're right." That single, powerful phrase set the emotional stakes, and it formed the foundational ethics for one of the most famous whistleblowers in American history. It is just the perfect opening hook for our narrative.
So let's move to Chapter 1, the call to courage.
We really need to look at the underlying psychology that compels ordinary people to step up, break the silence, and take these extraordinary risks for what is right. We can actually map this psychological leap perfectly onto Christopher Vogler's classic 12 stages of the hero's journey. You see, every great documentary subject, every real-life whistleblower, has to start in what's known as the ordinary world. Then, they face a conflict or challenge that forces that terrifying call to adventure. And eventually, they must face the ordeal, where things go wrong, the stakes become life or death, and they have to endure immense hurdles.
The crucial point here is that courage isn't just a lack of fear. Not at all. According to the dual process model of courage, it is a highly active process. Individuals are basically compelled to engage in a risky situation when it involves moral principles or people they care deeply about. It's triggered when someone feels this profound, unshakable sense of personal responsibility to protect those very principles. It's an active, conscious choice to step right into the fire.
To capture this in a documentary, visual storytelling is for sure your most powerful tool. Just like a filmmaker uses a camera lens to focus sharply on reality, showing the audience rather than just telling them, our hero must focus their attention on the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is to look at. You can use lighting, shot composition, and framing to evoke the heavy weight of the truth, all without needing a single word of dialogue. Which brings us to Chapter 2, Never Run When Right.
Now let's look at a realistic example of someone answering that call. Let's ground our narrative in the intense life-and-death struggle of New York Police Department officer Frank Serpico. Just imagine the opening scenes of our documentary. Serpico joins the NYPD in 1959. He comes in with this real, sincere idealism and a deep desire to protect the public. But he is quickly confronted with a very dark, ordinary world. He witnesses rampant bribes, ignored crimes, and an unspoken code of silence that actively prevents officers from holding each other accountable. Instead of turning a blind eye to this systemic corruption, Serpico's unbreakable ethics forced him to refuse the crowd. He stood his ground and quietly began to gather evidence.
He eventually connected with another officer, David Dirk, and brought their findings to the press, which sparked the famous Knapp Commission to investigate police corruption. Interestingly enough, Serpico actually prefers the term lamplighter over whistleblower. He saw himself as someone illuminating a dark room, giving a voice to the voiceless. It's very much like turning on a lapel microphone in a completely silent space. Suddenly, the truth is amplified for everyone to hear.
Moving on to Chapter 3, the price of truth.
But stepping out of the shadows brings us to the absolute darkest part of the journey, the ordeal. In any great story, doing the right thing rarely goes unpunished. If we were scoring this film, this is exactly where we'd bring in a slow, heavy, droning musical cue to acknowledge the visceral, terrifying pushback Serpico faced for his integrity. Telling the truth came with severe consequences. He was completely ostracized by his peers and excluded from vital communications. Then came the ultimate ordeal. In 1971, during a drug buy and bust in Brooklyn, Serpico was shot in the face. The circumstances of that shooting remain shrouded in mystery to this day, as his fellow officers did not immediately come to his aid. It was a literal life-and-death struggle against isolation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the power of visual storytelling in our documentary framework. How do you show that level of alienation on screen? You frame your subject within tight doorways, utilizing distant camera angles and deep shadows to visually communicate entrapment and immense loneliness, again, without a single spoken word. Because the reality of speaking out often means standing completely, entirely isolated in the frame.
Chapter 4, The Healing Power of Sincerity. However, as the heavy tension in our story finally breaks into a sweeping, inspiring orchestral arrangement, our hero survives the ordeal to reach the reward. And incredibly, this reward is actually physiological. Speaking the truth literally heals your body. In a fascinating study from the Science of Honesty Project, researchers found that committing to absolute sincerity resulted in exactly 7 fewer physical health complaints per week. 7.
Let's break that down. In this fascinating Psychology Today study, researchers split 72 healthy adults into 2 groups. The control group just lived normally, no special instructions. But the sincerity group had a strict rule. For 5 weeks, you must speak honestly, truthfully, and sincerely every single day. You must always mean what you say, even about the little things. And the results? By week 5, the sincerity group reported an average of 7 fewer symptoms, things like sore throats, headaches, and nausea. It turns out the ultimate reward of a sincere life isn't just societal change, it is a biological reduction in human ailments.
Practicing this absolute sincerity transforms vulnerability into immense strength. As Dr. Anita E. Kelly notes, being sincere acts as a sort of filter. It brings you closer to the decent people in your life, and it naturally pushes away the naysayers. Most importantly, it allows you to feel a profound hopefulness about the world. You are actively building a new reality populated by people who share your unbreakable values. And finally, Chapter 5, Becoming the Hero. As we reach the resolution of our emotional arc, we realize that telling the truth is the ultimate engine of personal transformation. It is the reward at the end of the journey. In a documentary, music acts as a co-narrator. It's the emotional compass. A sweeping score doesn't tell the audience what to think, it tells them how to feel, forging a deep human connection between the subject and the viewer. While similarly, your authentic truth shapes how the world connects with you. When you act as a lamplighter, your sincerity becomes this invisible thread that resonates deeply with everyone around you.
So, we want to leave you with this final, personal challenge. The documentary of your life is being filmed every single day. So reflect on this the next time you find yourself facing an ethical dilemma, right when the ordinary world is demanding your silence. Will you remember the cobbler's advice to never run when you're right? Will you accept the call to adventure, light the lamp, and become the hero of your own story?